action.
I'll call the Arundel Planning Board April 2nd, 2015 meeting to order at 7:15. We've just come out of executive session and there has been no action taken. We'll start with a roll call.
Marty Kane. Bob McGinn.
Bob Kuhn.
Rich Canal.
Roger Moran.
John McKendron.
Tad Redway Planner.
Marie Virtue, Secretary.
Okay, on our agenda tonight, we have approval of the agenda. We have approval of the minutes for March 12th, March 19th, and March 26th. And under the proposed ordinance changes, we have 3 items. Item 1, a review of the proposed sign performance standards. Item 2, a discussion of digital signage in business districts. Item 3, scheduling of public hearings. And the 4th item is the planner's report.
Motion to approve the agenda as written.
Before you second that, I would like to add an item, probably after number 2, but this concerns website postings of planning board business.
Add to it. Okay, so if, I'll amend my motion to include that.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Motion has been made and seconded to approve the agenda as amended. All those in favor? Anyone opposed?
Just one.
Oh.
And it's only, again, I'm gonna go back and read our stuff. That's a substantive change to an agenda. It's adding a whole new item that hasn't been published, right? Or people, I just, you guys approved it, but I'm just not sure that we can
Public
do
notice,
that.
you mean?
Yeah. I mean, so the public would not have had any notice at all that we were going to discuss that.
Well, just to clarify, it's a point of information that I want to bring forward. It's not necessarily something that needs to be discussed. But
Okay.
it's up to you guys. It is a substantive change. I agree with Bob on that.
Good point.
I don't really understand it by, what, can we leave it for discussion? Because the reason I'm asking is, we don't have to take any action, but turn around to see what the basis
Yeah, it
of
could be,
the.
but we don't have a place for discussion here, so if
I
you
mean,
want to put it under general
Yeah, it should be
discussion.
used.
No, between ourselves we do, under an agenda item, we can discuss.
Yeah,
I mean, it's not, we're taking any action. It's to turn, and it can be put on the
make
next,
a motion.
next one.
Somebody
At
said.
this point, I'm curious what you want to talk about, so I'd
That's
like
what
to
I'm
just
saying.
hear it, and then we don't have to make a decision. We can,
Well,
But it has to be
I'd
approved.
be happy to bring it forward, but this is not the place in the agenda to do it, so.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Oh, and yeah, it was approved, it was approved.
And was approved, that's right,
It was
sorry.
approved. That's
You're right,
why I
it was
wanted to
approved.
correct it, and You looked at me, so I told you why.
End of
I
discussion.
hadn't thought of it.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes,
Can we put that along our, so it's at least get discussed tonight, somewhere in there, so it's not just put on the back burner?
it's right after the minutes.
Okay.
It was put in as item number 3. So, the next item on the agenda, approval of the March 12th, 2015 minutes. These were originally tabled for clarification.
for the March 12th, I make a motion for March 12th be approved as written.
Okay, I'll second that.
Motion has been made and seconded to approve as written. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor? All those opposed? Unanimous. On to March 19th.
discussion.
Motion,
No, actually, we should have the motion and then discuss it.
I'd like to make a motion that we approve the minutes.
Motion has been made, is there a second?
You're referring to March 19th,
March
correct?
March 19th.
I'll second that.
Okay, so motion has been made and seconded, discussion. Tom?
yeah, on the bottom paragraph on page 1, it's about the sign size for home occupancy. And I can't recall what we did. So my motion to limit to 4 square feet was voted down. So
Correct.
I'm all right with that. And then the next sentence says, therefore, home occupancy signs are limited to 8 square feet. And where, we didn't.
That's the ordinance right now.
No, the ordinance right now is 4.
The ordinance is four.
Yeah.
And we
So-
moved it to 8.
And I don't know, did we vote on the 8 or?
Yes,
Yes.
Okay, so.
that was the motion. The motion was voting to be at 8.
And that's not included on here though.
Yeah, it's not there.
It's, my motion was for 4 and then that was denied and then someone else, I think, you made a motion to bring it to 8. I don't
There
remember.
was
I don't
actually 2
remember.
or 3 things, and we finally settled on 8.
Yeah, so I don't know what that process, that step was. Anybody remember?
I don't, but there's obviously a motion that's missing in item 2.
So it was not 8 in the first place?
No, it's 4 originally. It
Was
was
always
8, I
4?
think, in your,
It was proposed as 8,
proposal. Yeah.
but it had to be,
But
but
you
you
vote on it.
had to vote on
Right, and we haven't voted on it yet.
We did.
Well, we did.
it.
Yeah.
We did,
We did vote
We
on
No,
it.
did,
we had
but it's
this-
not reflected in the minutes, is what you're saying.
That's why we went round and round.
Yeah, but it's not in the minutes, so there was no motion.
Yeah,
See, I don't even remember voting for or against that.
I didn't think we had
No, you
voted
and I-
one way or the other on it.
Did we vote?
Well, I motioned that we should not exceed 4 square feet. You seconded that, but that was defeated.
Yeah, and then, I don't remember if there was
But
a.
I don't remember there
follow-up
having been a
motion.
motion to do the 8
We
feet.
check on the.
I thought that was just part of the ordinance that, and they just
Existed.
continued on.
Yeah,
Not existed,
and
the
if that's the
proposed.
case, it's, the existing is only 4
The
though.
existing is 4, the
Yeah.
proposal was to 8.
Yeah.
And
We
we
went
thought
with 6 and then we had 8, it turned out, but I mean, it went around 2 times.
But we haven't voted on the ordinance, is what I'm saying. We
I
did,
would
we had a
have-
great discussion, but I don't think we
Okay,
voted on it.
it's for discussion. I think maybe we should defer these minutes, ask Marie to read
Check
that
the
one.
tape.
Read that one first and see if there was a vote or not to
Okay.
do that.
Then
And get any other clarifications at the board meetings.
we will table the March 19th minutes for clarification.
So,
Anybody else have any other?
for point of
Anything
order,
else?
anyway, there was the motion, sorry, but, Mr. Chair, there was a motion, second, do we have to, do they have to
Now we take a
withdraw?
vote.
No.
Let's take a vote.
We take a, yeah, we have to vote it down,
Okay.
okay?
I have to.
You don't have to, they get to vote any way they want.
Well, that's true, but in order to table it, we have to vote it down.
Okay.
Now, unless we leave it at 8.
Well,
Yeah,
the
the
motion's
motion.
for the approval of the minutes.
I think it
Right.
something about 8 because it was limited to 2 at 4. Does that strike a note with you
There
guys?
was a lot of discussion, we.
If they had
Okay.
2, it would have to be 4
It
each.
was twice it was
And therefore
defeated, and then 8 went through.
That's what I thought.
It was defeated once at one
Well-
spot, that it was defeated again in the second spot.
Well,
It
that-
was.
There was that discussion though, is the eight by itself or 2 of the 4-foot ones? Because
Right.
I thought when we ended up with the 4, but they could have 2 on the property and
No.
but we'll,
I'll clarify.
So the-
we'll get that
The
clarified.
mo- the
So all in
motion has
favor?
been made and seconded. All those in favor of approving the minutes? All those opposed?
Yeah.
Okay. Motion fails. We will table these minutes for the next meeting. March 26th.
Motion to approve.
Oh, I'll second that.
Motion's been made and seconded. Is there any discussion?
All in favor?
Yeah, wait. Is there any discussion?
You read that one.
If there's no discussion, all those in favor? Anybody opposed?
Okay, you guys are good.
We're gonna make you chair.
Ah, you had that.
Okay. Next item, the item that was added, informational,
Right, this is concerning the website, and I've had some feedback, and I've also had some issues myself in terms of finding information on the website. Information being minutes that are posted, not posted, so they go like way back. We should have, minutes relatively current posted. I mean, if we're maybe 2 or 3 weeks behind, I can see that because we're going through things. But we don't have anything close to current minutes on the website, and there are people who are looking for those. And then even more important than that, we're working on this major ordinance revision, and different people in town are looking at the ordinance as it's developing and are trying to get information on it. Cannot find it on the website, so we don't have things that are finished by the planning board and ready for public discussion, even though we haven't set up a public hearing yet. They should be posted on the website so people can get a preliminary feel for what's going on and be informed when it comes to the public hearing that we're gonna have and be able to discuss all of those revisions. I mean, we're proposing major revisions to the ordinance, and we should make that information as accessible as possible. And, that it was brought in focus for me by some requests I had for information, and basically I said, well, it should be on the website. It isn't. So my request personally to the board and to management as well, and from some constituents that have contacted me, is that we get our minutes posted up to date, and we get as much of the ordinance revisions that the planning board has completed up on the website for review by the public
honestly, I
in
had
draft form.
I had not realized they were not. I did notice when I went to look at the videos that are out there of the various meetings, that there's nothing current that's out there. But I had not realized, I didn't look to see if the minutes
Right,
or
I mean,
anything else
the
was out there.
website was supposed to be a way to communicate with the public. We should do that.
And this has been, months, not just,
Can I try to save you guys some time and address this? It's an administrative issue.
Yeah, well, that.
That's why I would address
I was
it.
gonna say 2 points. This is a very long-standing issue, and Marty has brought this up for at least a year. The town manager, before he left, had kind of committed to doing that, was doing that. I don't think this new guy does that.
Well, I would request our chairman to tell the town manager that this needs to be done, and this needs to be
I don't
done
think it's a
now.
big issue.
I can save you guys some time
Yeah,
if you want.
Marie?
I went in today at Town Hall, and Ann and I have it all streamlined, and it was resolved today. Ann's gonna be putting it in. I don't have access to it, and so from now on, Ann will do it. I'm gonna have the minutes done promptly, send them to
Right.
her, and Ann will put them in.
So it's Ann's job to do this?
I don't know if I can answer that question.
No, is it?
Ann's going to be doing
Whose
it.
job is
Yeah,
Whose
it
job?
used to be the town manager. The town manager is not here. The town manager, was the web administrator, was not here. And is now being, what I've done is I have given, by Jack's permission, access to various people to be able to start posting stuff there, whereas it was only one gatekeeper before. And so now we have the town clerk, which before did not have the capability to do this. Only the manager does. The town clerk, the deputy town clerk, will now be responsible for that. When it comes to the videos I get, and the videos are posted to YouTube, I just can't get the links up to the website. And the former town manager is coming in tomorrow morning to show us how to do that last function.
Okay.
Because the stuff is there, it's just we can't get it to the website, and IT doesn't know how to do it. And the manager
IT,
We actually have a contract IT.
and they don't know?
No.
Call me
I had
and pay me
heard,
their salary, I'll take care of it.
I had heard we had somebody that was doing IT, but to tell me that he doesn't know how to do it. I know
Well,
how
I'm
to do
telling-
it.
Yeah.
What's IT?
The posting from YouTube.
Information
Yes.
technology.
You wanna tell me? If
And
Tom
then
doesn't,
it-
if Tom doesn't show tomorrow, I'll
It's-
be happy to get anybody to help me do that, because I got this huge backlog. It's not just you, it's selectmen and it's comp plan. They all gotta
Yeah,
go up.
but this is a major issue, so I'm glad it's being handled, and I'm gonna ask the chairman to make sure you follow up on this, to make sure that this gets done, because we do need to get this information out.
I will call the town manager tomorrow.
Well,
Well, he's the person that I have to go through
yeah, he's,
to do it properly.
Sounds to me like someone's already moved forward. But
Yeah.
2 out of the 3 things, I think, sound like to get resolved. What about all the proposed ordinance
I
that?
think the only time we've done that in the past is they were put on prior to the public hearings.
Yes,
I
but
don't
guess
think we
what?
had- I don't think we put running ordinance changes on the website.
How many trees do you want? This will save a lot of trees.
Well, the point is, when we, yeah, I mean, we can put finalized stuff on
Right.
it, but we don't have running ones, we don't put running
No,
ones.
no, I'm not suggesting that either, we're still working on
Pending.
it, but what we finished with should be out there.
Yeah, I agree, I think that would be
Probably have to
a
put
good
that
thing,
in the
because it
splash.
would give people enough time to read it, review it, and then they can come
I
and shoot
mean,
it all out.
Contrary to what we sometimes think, people are interested in these issues and do want
Oh,
to
yes.
know, and this is a
Yeah.
convenient way, so.
But it hasn't been ignored is what I
Right.
want to stress.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
I left town hall about 3:30 today. I just checked, it's not been updated, but I'll bet tomorrow it
Will
will be.
be tomorrow.
I
Excellent.
appreciate that. Thank you for bringing it up, John.
Yep.
Proposed ordinance changes. Review of the proposed sign performance standards. Did you all get to look at the proposed sign performance standards?
No.
Give me a clue as to where that is that in one of our
That's
previous?
51612.
516?
That's the ordinance.
That's where we left off.
Oh, 516.
326 is the 325.
Did anybody get a chance to look at them?
Okay.
The last place we left off,
We had done church signs. Yep, that's what, where we
so
left
we were
off.
going into illumination signs, illumination standards for signage.
There's some unit changes there, because you have foot candles, and you're not doing it in foot candles, right?
You mentioned
I didn't
that on your
change,
iPhone.
quite frankly, I didn't change a bloody thing in externally or internally on lit signs.
No, that's what we're supposed to go over tonight.
Yeah.
Right, but if
I
this is,
did
this
not
is
change
exactly
the
what,
standards
that's
from what
exactly
they
what
are
we have
now.
right now.
Okay, but that's my first comment. In externally illuminated signs, is that we should be consistent in our measure of illumination.
But, John, may I ask a question first? Definition, because everybody's stuck on definition. If you don't have a definition, it ain't allowed.
Well, are you talking about definition of the units that are being used?
No. External, internal.
Of what?
Internal, external.
Oh,
Because the reason why it can't be used right now is because the definition, everything is only internally lit.
let's see.
Say that again, Marty? I didn't.
All signs only can be internally lit, usually by a fluorescent bulb or whatever outside.
No, you don't have
No,
to
we
have
have,
illuminated signs.
we have externally illuminated signs in the
But
ordinance
you
now.
can't use a digital, leave it in the
We're
opening. the
Marty,
opening-
we're not talking about digital signs, we're talking about externally illuminated signs and internally illuminated signs. It is not digital signage, so please stay with that issue.
Digital.
Okay, so, but digital signage being self-illuminated What about, you know, like neon signs and all of that? Is that external or internal?
Separate.
Separate. So I think Marty's point may be relevant as far as defining what we mean. Because if you
But
have
the
self-illuminated signs.
definition of externally illuminated signs and internally illuminated signs is in the ordinance. It says, the surface of externally illuminated signs shall be illuminated by exterior light fixtures mounted on the top of the sign,
Well,
and directed downward or mounted within the casing of the frame. So that's pretty clear as to what we mean by an externally illuminated sign.
it should have the bottom mounted as well, but as I'm thinking about it, you can
They
have it
can,
from
they can be in the
anywhere.
grass and.
It says light fixtures may be installed. on the
However,
ground
yes,
or-
that is pretty clear, right?
Right, and it does say that the light fixtures can be installed on the ground and pointed up at the sun. So I think from a definition point of view, that's a pretty clear standard
For external.
for externally illuminated signs.
Except for the foot, to John's foot.
Right, to your issue of the foot candles, but the definition is there. It does tell us what we mean by an externally
Yeah.
illuminated sign. Now,
What did we change foot candles to?
we had been talking about, what was it, nits?
No.
It's.
No, this is
Those are
something-
for
that's
digital
something
signage.
different.
It's
Sorry.
only
That-
be used for digital
Lux.
signage.
Had we,
Well, you can
Was
use
it
that
Lux?
for anything.
we had,
No, I'm
we
gonna
had
use it
discussed changing-
differently, because nits are gonna be used from a generated, the brightness of that sign, and foot candles are basically the reflectivity of that sign. And I'm, frankly speaking, gentlemen, I don't have time to do all the research to make this necessary to make the connections between all these things. We're out of time. This is no different, this is exactly what we have right now. If we wanna change it later, terrific, but, you know, we're running out of time here, guys. And I don't have right now the time to
Are
make
you,
that
do
distinction.
you need to have foot candles translated into lux?
I need something I can actually measure, that's what I need.
You can
I
measure
need-
both.
Yeah, they're both good measurements. That's why I said, why are we changing the measurement?
Well, because you
Why-
wanna be
why is foot
consistent. If
candles
you're gonna
about
measure
measurement?
something in one way for one sign, why
Okay.
not measure
So
it the
the-
same way for
Because
the
they're
other
two
sign?
different signs, they're two different types of
Makes no
signs.
difference, the same, the light coming from them is the same.
But but what's coming from an LED sign is a little different than what's coming from certainly an externally illuminated sign, which is a reflectivity.
How's it?
Because you're reflecting off the surface. You're not looking at the light source.
Yes, you are, you're looking at the
You're
surface,
looking at
that's a
the-
light source.
You're looking, no, it's a reflected sign, it's reflected, John, it's bouncing off the surface.
That's what you're seeing, that's,
It's
That's what it's
reflected source,
measuring.
whereas the other one is the point source, that you're looking directly at the light source.
Right.
They're two totally different types of illumination that are occurring. You're
They're-
looking into the light bulb.
it makes.
Yeah, digital.
They're different types, but you're
It makes
still
no difference as to
you're
the
still
amount of light.
measuring the light from that sign.
Right, but there's a difference in the measurements that you use for reflected light versus point source light.
I agree, you're not looking right at the bulb when.
And that's where nits come into
But
play.
But if I-
it's just diffuse as opposed to point source, but the light itself, it doesn't make any
If I have
difference.
marbles in a can or marbles on the table and I'm measuring them, they're gonna be the same amount of marbles. It's gonna be this, the measurement and how you determine the light, the meter can measure light and it's gonna be at X level.
Which meter are we using?
I don't know.
You can use this
I
one.
mean, that's what you guys are talking about. John brought that up the last time, that he
I
had
can
the
tell
apps
you
on
what
the
the
phone
lux is
for
for
both
that.
lumens and foot candles. I mean, we've always used foot candles. I didn't know we changed that. I know we had the conversation.
That's
Well, we haven't
that's-
changed.
that's
That's what I'm saying, we're
160
staying with
lux
foot
right now.
candles.
That's my point.
I don't know how that's calibrated, how do I know that's calibrated correctly? I gotta
You don't
have it
need to.
calibrated, I don't need to?
No.
I'll be in court if I don't have a calibrated device.
No.
I could do, that's the way things are always defeated in court, is that calibrated? You get to bring in somebody who's
So
terrific.
if our ordinance says 100 lux and we measure 279, we're in safe territory.
You wanna change that to lux, give me the date for that, okay?
Sure.
You wanna change it, change it.
Take a vote.
It's,
Well, you know, that's not what you're, I mean, what are we talking about?
Yeah, right.
We're talking about just randomly changing things without knowing what we're talking about here?
I don't know the difference
We
between
don't.
a Lux and a foot candle.
I don't know the difference between a Lux foot candle and a nit.
10.8 lux to a foot candle.
It's the same
But
thing,
it's-
it's just a different number.
Okay, so,
It's
Let's
light.
stick with- Let's just
You're
stick with one
measuring
rather than
light.
have both of them in here.
Why,
Or its equivalency.
why
Well,
have
for-
different
for-
measures than you don't know what you're talking
for
about when you wanna
exped-
compare them?
For
I don't know
expediency's
what I'm
sake,
talking about, why we need a Lux, I don't know.
Why would we need a foot
Or
candle?
whatever
what's
we're-
what's the
I
advantage
don't
of
know
Lux
why
over a
we
foot
need
candle?
one over the other.
I
Could-
really need to
Could
know.
could a
what the
foot
difference
candle
is.
be used for everything?
Yeah, why not?
It can, but then we have to change the digital signs to put candles. We decided lux was the measure because that's an easier way to measure. That's how camera exposure works.
we didn't decide it.
We didn't decide.
We talked about it.
We talked about it, we didn't decide.
We defined digital signs in terms of lux.
Really?
Yeah, we did.
Yeah.
I don't have any data
Read our
on digital
minutes.
signs and what's all the
Well,
data I've got is
I
the
don't
minutes.
know, I
Same
got,
decision,
looking here,
but
so the illumination of a sign is fully bright and shall not exceed 3-foot candles. That's under digital signage.
We changed it to lux.
We
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 talked,
discussed
I
it.
don't remember
You
changing.
we talked about your phone and being able to do
Well,
it.
right, okay, let's
Okay.
put it this way. I don't care which unit we use, as long as we are consistent.
I want to put
Maybe we're
it
all
this way.
saying.
I want to put it this way. Given that we're not looking to change anything that's in here right now, for expediency's sake, so that we can, let's just move on and leave it here. And after the town meeting, if we want to get into changing stuff within the ordinance and the sign lux, lumens, whatever, let's do it at that point.
Yeah.
But I don't want to get tied up and spend all night discussing lumens or foot candles or anything else. Because this is what we have
Consistent.
currently.
Can I
What-
make one
Yes,
simple thing?
yes, you can.
Or its equivalency. If you turn out, put it
Or
that
it's
word
equivalent.
there.
Yeah,
That answers all the questions.
yeah. Or an equivalent measurement.
Light intensity is what you're looking
I
for.
mean, everybody is so worried about light pollution, but they're not, because that's what they're worried about, until brightness.
I was sure.
Okay, the only question I have, because you bring up how are we gonna measure and what is the code enforcement, how is the code enforcement guy gonna do it?
Yeah.
In our regulations that have been there for 30 years, we have to measure light intensity at the property line. Whatever meter we have to do that, if we have one, would be suitable for signs. Just that it would be a different reading that they would get. Are you looking for a different intensity, as John would say, that you would get closer to the sign than you would at the border of a property? Are you looking for leverage to get some meter for the code enforcement officer? I mean,
Yeah.
I didn't
We
understand.
wanna
the
waste some
question.
more money.
You don't need it, because if it varies by 1 or 2 units, you're not gonna go any further than that. But if you're off by 100 units, hey, there's a problem. And whether your meter is accurate or not, almost doesn't matter, you're in the ballpark.
Well, for property and new builds, we require a photometric study to show that light is on.
Like, for exterior lighting, we different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Same,
Isn't it
same.
exterior?
Oh, okay. I know, I mean, you say so. I mean, I don't remember anything for interior. But at that same property line though, they have to meet that same standard. Just because it's a sign that's brighter doesn't mean that they can exceed the other standard,
Well, if.
right?
If that was bright enough to spill over 100 feet, that's gonna be a bright sign.
Well, but my point is, if we can measure it at the property, we can measure it at the sign, determining how much can come off the sign is one factor of brightness or visibility and the clarity of the sign. On this hand over here, it's what is the nuisance to passing cars, vehicles, people, light. So there's, even though you measure it at the sign, you also gotta measure it at the property.
what, I think
Gotta
what
be
you're
both.
saying, if you can measure it in one place, you can
You
measure it
measure
anywhere.
another,
Exactly.
exactly. If we had a
I'm gonna
regular,
get different readings where I am, aren't I? If I have
Oh,
a
yeah.
sign that's 5 feet from the property line, which is the edge of the street, that sign may not meet that standard at all, if it's
Exactly.
interior lit.
well, it may not.
No, but 100 feet from it, it will.
Well,
No.
but again, there's,
Yeah.
it's too
Sure,
different, but
because
there,
the light diminishes
This isn't with this.
distance.
With the square of the distance.
Square of the distance, yes.
Well, then we should be all set along with
But I
that.
mean,
There's no lights.
but they're two different purposes. The digital signs came in with, they had a problem of brightness and being too bright.
Right.
So even in the industry, they had to limit how much brightness could come out, and they're recommending, I think, anywhere from 20 to 60% of that sign's capability to run in the smaller margin, because it's too bright to see the lettering. That has absolutely, or the graphics, that has absolutely nothing to do with measuring the light at the boundary. That's another requirement.
But I think we're also, we shouldn't mix apples and oranges, because one of the concerns about the brightness of the sign is not whether or not the light exceeds that at the boundary, because I guarantee you, many a sign was
It's
built.
not a sign issue.
But but the thing is, John's right about one thing, foot candle is light that hits the surface. It's what, the light that lands on a surface. When we do foot candles in lighting, we're talking about how much light is on the surface, usually on the ground. It can be on the building, but usually it's on the ground. When we do a measurement, for instance, of light, how many foot candles of light are crossing the property line? I've got a lighting in a parking lot here, and I've got a light fixture there. How much light is falling off onto the ground, onto the neighbor's property? And that is always measured in foot candle, once from a city candle, you know, within a square foot. Okay, that's,
And it measures how much light is crossing the boundary.
it's how much light is hitting that surface, is what it's
At
saying.
the boundary.
Wherever you put it, it's
Yep.
what's hitting the surface,
Uh-huh.
that's the difference.
Yeah, but it
That's
doesn't
not-
matter if that light source is coming from a reflective or a bright light or LED light or the
No, I'm
sun.
not saying that, but what I'm saying is, in a sign, it's a different thing, because it's, the issue is not the light that's hitting the surface of the property as much as the light that's hitting the person who's coming, is reading the
Who is
sign.
re-
That's the issue.
No.
Or the amount of light that's being bounced, reflected back into the atmosphere.
Right.
That's part of it, that's part of the issue.
I think, that's probably, that may be
You're-
one part of it, but.
You're
the-
misinterpreting that.
Why's
Yeah.
that? Why am I
They have
misinterpreting?
very-
It's talking about luminous transmittance.
For the digital side, they have very specific recommendations, be 5 feet up, I mean, these aren't right. Be 5 feet up in the air, be 4 feet back, because they want to get the intensity of the light coming out of the sign. And the sign's operation is best operated in a certain level. Okay, that's.
Which is
their-
the amount of light that's being generated off that sign, correct?
Yes.
So the more they reduce down its intensity, is the less luminosity that's coming out of the sign, correct?
No.
What is it then?
The difference is, the luminosity is the amount of light produced by the source. Okay? What you're messing up on is the fact that, let's take the sun. You would say that's very bright, got a high luminosity. Take a star. It's got the same or greater luminosity. But just because it's far away, it doesn't bother you. It looks dim, but the luminosity is very high. In terms of signage and stuff like that, it's pretty much irrelevant, because it has to do with the light being generated off of a surface. You could have one little LED, one of those little 3-watt LEDs that you get in your, in those light bulbs that you can buy now. They have several of them. If you just take one little LED out of there, it has a very high luminosity. Put it at a distance, it would still have a high luminosity, but it would just be a little tiny pinprick of light. What matters is the amount of light coming towards you, landing on a surface, illuminating your driveway or whatever. That's what makes the difference. Luminosity is, you know, yes, it may be a pinprick, but it's a very bright pinprick. That's high luminosity. And that, you know, why would we want to limit that? You can't. I mean, what's the point? You can say, well, it doesn't make
And
any
I
sense.
understand exactly what you're saying, John. And you're right, it makes a difference in terms of where the sign is located. If it's located by the side of the road, it's going to be much brighter. I'm trying to think of some place that we could use for an example. A light at Weas Motors out by the road is going to be much brighter than the same light set back at the end of the parking lot. You're absolutely correct. The question becomes, how do we measure it?
At the property line.
At the property line, I agree with you. It's
been
at
there
the
forever.
property
It's got
line.
nothing to do with
What
it.
are the foot candles at the property
Right,
line?
but the luminosity of the sign will not change
Change.
whether you have it at the road or whether you have it set back. It's the same luminosity.
You're correct.
Because
What
you
will
have to
change will
measure
be
it
the-
at a
will
set
be the light
distance
at
from
the
the source.
If I measure it, if I take that same sign at Weas Motors, I have no foot candles at the road,
If I agree. with
unless
that.
I'm measuring it right there at the road.
A lamp light is made to project and light up the surface, parking,
Yep.
walking. But the signs are made to project out. It's not really made to hit the ground. So as far as foot candle, I think it ends up being different. So if the same, because it's also, it's not just one bulb, it's 10 square feet of those lumens going out. Every one of them might be not that bright to bother you, but it could be thousands of those lumens and projecting out towards the street, not to the ground. So where do you measure it? Where are you gonna measure it?
At right angles or, you know, right to the sign, right across from it. Light coming from the sign, how much light is it getting to you? You know, let's go back to the big sign again. If that big sign is right outside your window, it's gonna be a hell of a bother. If that same big sign is 1,000 feet away, you probably wouldn't even notice it.
I think we have to be careful. I don't want to spend, I was hoping we wouldn't have to spend too much time, but we have to be careful that, I don't know what those digital signs, how bright or distracting they may be. And one, if there's one, that's not bad of a problem, but there could be a dozen of them within a couple hundred yards of each other. And would that be an issue? I don't know.
I think so.
I think it would be an issue.
But that's,
But we aren't even talking about digital signs.
Yeah, I know.
What we're
Right
talking
now,
about-
we're just talking
talking about
externally and externally lit.
Right.
But your digital sign one is, we're spot on.
which is the next section down, which is digital signage.
Right. But our current standard talks about not exceeding 3-foot candles on the average surface, on the vertical surface of the sign.
What,
Foot candle being,
3-foot candles on the vertical surface?
that's what it said, it said the average
That's
level
right.
of illumination on
Yeah.
the vertical surface of the sign shall not exceed 3-foot candles, and the uniformity ratio, which is the ratio of average
Yeah.
to its maximum illumination, shall not exceed 2:1, which means you'll have hot spots, but you shouldn't have really huge hot spots. And basically, 3:1, a 3-foot candle is a bright sign, because 1-foot candle is the average illumination of a parking lot. So, 3-foot candle, that's triple the average illumination, that's average illumination of a parking lot surface.
Okay, but that's the maximum that's allowed to come off of this sign.
Okay. That's our maximum right now.
Yeah, and I
That's our current.
and I think that's fine. But they have to take that maximum back to a point that at the boundary of the property or the roadway or whatever, they also meet the other standard.
Correct. And
Well, I think it's an absolute,
Yeah.
It's not based on where you are in the landscape, it's an absolute of you shall not produce more than 3-foot candles on the surface of the sign.
Well,
But it would
yes,
be
that's
an
true.
absolute.
It
if
is an
you're-
absolute.
If you're looking at it saying, at the property line, you cannot have more than a half a foot.
We already have
The foot candle, whatever it is that we have in the ordinance.
But that's for light, that's for light projected downward on the surface for
But my
the purpose
point
of
being-
lighting, that's for the purpose of lighting a parking lot or lighting a sidewalk. It's basically the amount of light that hits, in most cases, a horizontal surface. And the intent there is to make sure that, the assumption is if you have more than 1/10 foot candle, that there's all this light that's coming down, there's that beam of light coming down, and you're getting reflectivity
My-
out of it.
But my point being that if that sign is located near the roadway and you're restricted in terms of what you can have hitting the property line, I don't care if it says 3, they're not gonna be able to put 3 out there. Because it'll bounce out and you'll have too much hitting the property line.
So we'll have, nobody will be able to light a sign out there.
You can't light the sign if it violates the rest of the ordinance.
But that ordinance only applies to outdoor lighting.
Yes.
If
That's
we're
all.
gonna use
I'm
the
not saying it
same,
doesn't.
And it's not even talking about a sign.
if
Not
we're gonna
talking
use
about
the same
signs, it's talking
standard,
about
we're
light
gonna,
sources.
we're gonna require cutoff fixtures as well, and it's, a sign isn't the same as a light.
Well, the intent is to make sure it isn't the same thing as a light. But,
Right.
you know, it's 3-foot candles is not a dark surface. That's a bright surface, fairly bright surface. Depending on what the reflectivity is, based on what you've got for background. You've got a white background, it's going to appear much brighter.
Most business owners probably don't wanna pay for the extra brightness anyways, because it'd just be a waste.
Yeah, we're only talking about externally here.
Internal and external, right?
Trying to make a distinction between our internal and external, between external, internal, and digital. Because what you have in internal is you have a translucent background in which light basically transfers through. There's a transmittance of light through. You're not getting direct light through. You'll have hot spots, you know, based on what's behind it. Right now, we require it to be, you know, fluorescent tubes, because that's been the standard for the last 50 years. I don't know what other ones they use, they're all going to digital signage, which is a different animal altogether, because it's not passing through a material. What the material it passes through, if it's Lexan or something like that, what it's doing is it's diffusing the light. So it's not a beam, it diffuses and spreads it over the surface. We don't, actually, in this, we don't even talk about when we get to internally lit, we're not even talking about the maximum amount of foot candles we have on that surface, unless you want to make it the same as it is for external. Because the way that we controlled it in the past was requiring you to put in 40 watt fluorescent tubes,
Yeah, and that
which
is the,
you
that
probably
is the
might
control.
still do, because it's cost effective, or you might be using LEDs inside, I don't know.
I don't think you need to limit internal.
No, but that was the way they prevented the luminous transmittance from being excessive, I guess.
Just to move this forward, I'm gonna throw out a motion that we go with the number 1 and 2, externally illuminated signs and internally as proposed. Then we can focus on digital. That's my motion.
Okay.
Both 1 and 2, but internally doesn't have any kind of limit, like Tad just mentioned, doesn't have any limit for the brightness.
Okay, so let me amend mine to just number 1, the externally as written, because that does have the measure.
We need a second.
I'll second that, keep this moving.
Okay. Motion's been made and seconded to go with the externally illuminated signs. Is there any other discussion? Bob?
Nope, not for external.
Okay, hearing no other discussion, all those in favor?
That's
Okay.
as written.
As written.
Okay.
Okay. Internally illuminated signs.
I don't argue with John, what John said, we don't have a maximum in there. You wanna make it 40 lux?
No, why not make it this, you know, if.
I don't care, if
To
you
your
wanna use
point-
lux, I'll use
to-
lux.
To your point, and to John's point, if that's gonna be the light coming off of the sign, so it just happens to be going through it, right?
Yeah.
Because it's on the internal. So that value would be the same if I was, I mean, if you want the same light amount at 1 foot, you can use that same standard, because it would be the same for either sign.
Right, if 3-foot candles is good for one, it should be good for the other.
Should be good for the other.
Take that whole clause, just drop it right in.
Right in. And that-
Well, wait a minute now, you can't quite drop it in because it says shall not exceed 3-foot candles, wait a minute, the average level of illumination on, shall not exceed 3-foot candles. What you have to say here is illumination emanating from
Yeah.
shall not exceed 3-foot candles.
Okay.
But if, the little problem is if these signs are already sort of standardized around fluorescent tubes, what is it that fluorescent tubes spaced 12 inches on center produce in terms of foot candles?
It would depend on the boards that are, or the blocking material that's blocking the full light. So if a 1/16 of an inch, I'm just making this up, it's too bright, then they have to go to 2/16. So really, you know, the amount of hole, you know, coming through.
Where,
So
where do you get 12 inches on center? Where-
That's what the current says.
That's the last line there.
Yeah,
On,
Not in the
Internally.
proposed, in the existing.
see it, it's.
516A4C4, 6.
light sources shall be fluorescent tubes spaced at least 12 inches on center, on at least 3.5 inches from the translucent surface material.
that's at least, they gotta be that one, they could be spaced further.
But this way, if we set
Oh, it's in-
lumens,
no,
they
it's in
can
the
mount them
ordinance.
anywhere.
Oh, it's
not-
not, oh, it's not really
No, no, it's in the ordinance now.
Well, we could keep that in there since we've gone to digital sign. The idea of getting rid of it was because if somebody wanted to use an LED rope or something like that in there,
Right.
they can't. And that's why I was trying to eliminate that. And saying, well, it limits the type of technology you can use for an internally illuminated sign.
I would just put, for example, that would be acceptable.
Well, but it may not be, depending upon how much light.
So
they
you want
put.
light pollution, so you use your LED as, at least it's energy saver. Everybody wants to be green, so I'm laying,
But my point is, Marty, that it doesn't matter what you use as the light, it's the intensity of the sign, it's the brightness of the sign.
depending on how high you are.
Yeah, well, we don't
Well,
care if you.
guess what, you might as well just put it on the floor, because guess what, it's only gonna be 8 feet.
We're measuring right at the
Well,
sign.
if we go to your suggestion and take out
But you turn out,
the reference to fluorescent
when it's
tubes,
dark, it's more illuminated than turning.
that could be from any light source.
That's what we were talking about, was saying we use the same standards we use for external.
Yeah.
Right.
That it be no more than 3-foot candles.
And I don't think that I don't think that that would be a bad thing, to say, you know.
No, we've said the 3-foot candles would.
Right, so we
Gotta be
changed,
comparable.
what was the wording that you had used, John?
Well, instead of
Emanating
saying,
from.
Emanating
yeah,
from, thank you.
instead of saying the,
On the vertical surface, we would
right,
say emanating
of
from.
illumination
right?
on the vertical surface, it would be of illumination emanating from the vertical surface. So,
Okay,
got that wording?
it's,
He does, no, he doesn't.
So what does that mean? That mean that you put the meter right on the light, right on the sign?
emanating from the vertical surface of the sign.
So you still can't be seen coming down the road.
Yeah. Easy to measure.
Well,
That would
3-foot candles
become
are
what?
bright ones.
If you can measure one, you can measure the other. Just turn your
40-watt bulb.
Sensor around.
25-watt bulb. Of course, then it depends on what you use, a T100 bulb or turn on or a cool light. There's different illuminations.
We haven't talked about color
But the
yet.
cool light will be less. And you can go up to the 3 we've said. So it should be good.
I don't care.
No, but
I'm not gonna light it up, and root one up anyway.
The difference between what Marty's saying is what they call the K factor, or the spectrum, the wavelengths that are contained in the light. We're not addressing color here at all. Because there is a difference in terms of illumination. You could, one type of light is perceived as being brighter than another color of light at the same illumination. But I don't think we want to get into that.
No, because the meter doesn't care, the meter doesn't care if it's a 5,000 K or a 6,000 K, the meter gives you the same rating no matter what it is.
Depending upon which meter. If you're looking at wavelengths, you can get,
Yeah, but we're not.
We're not.
Yeah.
if you're averaging.
The town is not gonna get into looking at wavelengths of lights.
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, there's
But
been an
it tells you
discussion.
how absurd this whole discussion is, because we get the nitpicking to the nth degree, and it really doesn't matter.
Yeah, right.
Okay, so there's been
It's
an
allowed
addition
some
to,
internally and externally lights.
there's been an addition to the internally illuminated signs, so that the average level of illumination,
Is equal to that for an externally illuminated sign.
right,
That's not the
Let's
word.
put it this way, Joe Public
it says
doesn't understand it
the average
anyway.
level of illumination emanating from the vertical surface of the sign shall not exceed 3-foot candles, and the uniformity ratio, the ratio of average to minimum illumination shall not exceed 2.1.
Good.
That's-
Which is right from above.
Which is right from above.
Yeah,
Nice consistent.
Is everybody happy with that?
yeah, let's go with that.
Motion?
I don't make the motions, you guys do.
On the motion, we approve of that with that extra, requirement in there.
Okay.
That would be-
And dropping the fluorescent tubes, right? Or
Yeah.
substituting it for.
Yeah.
Yes, we
Yes,
don't
yes.
care about,
Yep.
yeah, good.
I'll second that.
Okay, motion has been made and seconded. Is there any other discussion? All those in favor? All those opposed? Is that an abstention, Marty?
I don't care.
Yeah. Okay, then Marty abstains.
Yeah, the digital sign.
Digital signage,
Let's get into the other one.
general standards. Right, we've already covered the first one. It has to be part of the body of the sign. No scrolling, phasing, rolling, flashing, or blending transmissions, and graphic animation is prohibited.
Transitions. Meaning,
Right,
how it transitions from one message to the next. Graphic animation means fireworks, person running or something like that.
no sign, intensity of brilliance to impair the vision of a motor vehicle driver.
Yeah, I mean, that's not,
That's why you measure.
that's very vague.
Right,
That's why
well,
that's why you measure it at your boundary, how much light can emanate over the boundary.
Will not interfere with the effectiveness of an official traffic control sign or device or signal.
What's the
How do you
traffic control
judge that?
sign?
Well, if you can't see a traffic light because the sign on the street is brighter, that's interference.
Pretty much it. How can you not? You can see a traffic light in the broad daylight.
Traffic light is more than 8 feet high.
I don't really know what that means, and if it means what I think it means, I don't know how we can measure that, how we can.
Well, I think it's
Like,
going
measure
to
all
have
light.
to be what it is, it's like a lot of things that we do, it's a judgment call. It's basically in just about all of the digital sign ordinances as a way of ensuring that there's a fallback measure in this situation where a digital sign that meets the standards, meets the maximum standards. If it's in such a place, it has such reflectivity, or it's in such an angle that it interferes with drivers' ability to read a stoplight or any kind of traffic control measure, that in fact it can be modified in some way so it doesn't do that. Or if it threatens to do that, it's proven that it isn't going to interfere with traffic control. And that's pretty much what we have even for other lights, is that, you know, it shall not impede motorist vision. We have that in the general standards. So the concept here is to provide the code enforcement officer or the planning board with something that's performance-based.
Well, we don't need to go buy a new light meter.
Well, actually, we're gonna need a new light. We're gonna need a
Well-
light. We don't have a new light meter, we don't have a light meter.
Yes, we do. We
Really?
had it when we were back in the seventies and eighties, because they were walking around all town, running around looking at everybody's light pollution.
I don't know where that
I think
is.
they rented it.
I don't think it's.
We have to find that.
You got such a good
Well,
memory, Marty. I
so
love
we-
it.
Okay, are we,
Batteries are probably dead on it by now.
are you,
Yeah.
Technology.
I can think of a lot of batteries that are
okay,
dead.
let's move on to the last couple of them. Daytime luminance of a digital sign. You know, daytime, it's 5,000 nits. At night, it's 200 nits.
Why are we doing this?
If you want to remember on that, go ask Dave Lane and Tom Danway. They were walking around with Stacy Wentworth.
We're going with nets because this is pretty much one of the standards that they use for doing LED signage. And the only other standard they have is using 0.3 foot candles measured 100 feet.
Yeah,
from-
0.32 or something.
It was still,
Yeah.
Yeah.
everybody uses 0.3.
Yeah.
And the problem is that's been found to be ineffective.
So let's go with
I
this.
think
We
I
just have-
sent you the literature on that.
We just have to have the definition of what it is.
Okay.
I did give
Well,
you
we got an equivalent between.
Our
the net-
equivalent.
What's an equivalent between the net? and
Read
the-
between the lines.
No, I think it is 0.32 foot candle.
I think it's less than that. Let's find out real quick, okay? I did
It
know.
doesn't matter, 'cause we won't be using that measurement.
Oh, sure, just wasted more time.
Well, once we have discussion on
I think that, yeah, I kind of like, while the town planner is finding that information, I like the fact that it has to have an auto-dimming photo cell to automatically adjust the display brightness based on the surrounding light. It has to have
That's right.
a default mechanism that if the sign malfunctions, it goes black.
It's equal to 1 candela per square meter. That's what it is.
And what's a candela?
It's almost equivalent to a candle power per square meter. So it's not a foot candle, it's a
No.
square meter candle.
this. Yeah, there's gotta be an equivalent.
That's when you get the right angle.
The Candelas Geradium
At the end by the
is
angle.
about 10.8 foot candle.
Am I missing that, John? Did I miss that?
Yeah, I was gonna say, that's an order of 10, I think, candela.
Probably is.
Which is the same as Lux.
It's 10.8,
10.8.
and we're not allowing more than 3.
That wouldn't be a problem.
Yeah.
We just made it by a factor of 3.
So that would be no more than 30, what? 32.
On section J, I don't know if we're ready to look at that yet, but, do we have anything like that in the ordinance at all yet, where the CEO is contracting with consultant? That's not the choice of the applicant?
That happens all the time, John. We require it all the time when you do a conditional use. You say, the engineer shall supply a written report certifying that all the improvements on this project have been done in conformance with the approved plans.
Who's engineer?
This is, The design engineer, or a third-party engineer. The code enforcement officer uses a third-party engineer in many of his situations.
So here's my concern, is what if the applicant had an engineer working with Sebago or Technics or something, where they already have someone in-house, could they just use their
This
contractor?
is, the code enforcement officer is not up to speed on this stuff, and this is to ensure compliance. So it's basically saying, look, if you're gonna put the sign in, part of the cost of doing business is, once it's in, we're gonna have our guy, our consultant, come and take a look at this and determine that it is in compliance with this ordinance. That's all. So it's a compliance issue.
Right.
There's another cost.
Yeah, it's a cost, it's one of the costs of doing
So
business.
you don't put a sign up at all.
I don't see where you should be charging anybody. You say this is your standard, you put it up, and make sure it meets the standard.
Who's gonna
And then
check?
if we wanna check it, then we can go check it.
Who's gonna check? We're gonna have to hire somebody to go
Yeah.
check.
Well,
But this happens all the time in the code office, John.
Where? It
Our
happens
code
all the
office,
time.
our code office. Right now, in fact, we have people who have building permits that have to go get structural engineers on things. They've had to submit some structural engineer reports, and we've had our own third-party engineers come in.
We didn't issue the permit.
No, you didn't issue the permit. And some of these permits you won't be issuing either.
I'm all right with that either way.
What it does is it ensures
Spoil the
compliance.
spec.
And it also ensures something else. It ensures that a town employee who's not necessarily trained in this kind of activity doesn't make a mistake.
And that he has the support that he needs
He
to
has
do
the
his
support to
job.
do the
I
job.
don't have a problem with that.
Otherwise, you won't do it. I mean, we have the same problem sometimes with sound. When we've had sound measurement issues, you know, you've got to be trained to operate a DB meter. It's also got to be calibrated and so forth. And you've got to be trained to do this.
But this is saying it's always gonna be required, so if someone
It's
just
just the
says,
compliance.
well, how many other things do we do that with?
Don't forget, you gotta have
I know
compliance with
with
signage, you gotta have
wetlands, there
compliance
might
with
be
this.
some,
And it's with wetlands.
on subdivision, we'll have a town engineer, but this is just a sign, and we're requiring them to pay for our consultant.
Okay, so what we should do is, in the town should train, should
No, I'm
have,
not saying that.
should train our guy to make
Another way
sure he
around
knows
is
how to do this.
Let them, if they have someone that's already qualified, maybe we can, it's like we do with the, we already do this with any business now with the outdoor lighting. We look at their lighting study. We're not contracting, it's their contract.
Jim Stoddard has been our lighting consultant, of course he has.
So
we
we
have
hire
this.
him?
You have to
Yes.
review those
To review
plans,
those
because
plans,
we don't know what
that was
they
our
mean.
consultant.
We don't know what they mean. That's been going on for years.
Okay.
Yeah,
Directed though.
I don't have a problem with this. Yeah.
I don't, you know, it is so simple, it doesn't cost the town any money whatsoever. All you do is you get a cheap little meter or your smartphone, and the CEO can hold it up, and if it's anywhere as close to what it should be, fine, we're all done. And if it's way off, then we can enforce the code.
But that becomes a judgment call by the CEO.
Oh, come on.
That's what-
It's
that's what his
twice
job
what
is.
the
That's what his
value
job
should
is.
be. Yeah, it's a judgment call, but it's not a major one. It's like real easy.
Yeah, hey, this is ballpark, this is good.
I mean, you're not gonna go by, you know,
Benefit of the doubt to the applicant.
Not if he has an iPhone.
geez, you know, keep it simple.
Thank you.
Anyway, 0.3 foot candles, we all realize that that is 10 times less than the other signs.
Did you read the stuff I gave you?
When you look, which are you talking about when you say 3-foot candles?
The 3-foot candles are for externally and internally lit signs.
Yeah.
This is 0.3, which is 10 times less.
So, I'm asking, where is the .3? 'Cause
Well, that's times
Well,
200,
Where does it say
John.
.3?
It says in E, illumination of a sign at full brightness shall not exceed 0.3 foot candles.
So you, why light it up at all?
Either the digital and electronic message?
I can't see that.
Oh, you know, this thing, page?
I don't know. We're discussing this section up in here, and I don't see.
No, I'm looking at a different page, so.
Page of the signage.
What's the date on it?
Oh, you're looking at 3.5, we're looking at 3.25, which might be why I can't find where you're at.
That went away.
I'm missing 325 too, John.
You're missing 325.
Yeah, I got 3.5, but not 3.25.
325 is what we worked on last time.
Yeah.
I got plenty.
That might be part of our problem.
Okay, all right.
325, 325, right here.
Got it, okay.
Because I don't see the .3, and that's why I was confused.
Well, going back to what was on 3.5, we did have what John is saying on the E.
What did it say?
Okay, well, 500 nits then, or 5,000 nits,
Okay.
at 200 nits. So, let's see, that is still less,
Times .3,
because, let's see,
.03.
The .3 was actually in reference to the amount of light over ambient light. That was a measurement that's being used by a lot of folks. It's the amount of ambient light exceeding, it's the amount of light generated by the sign, that's the maximum that it can exceed ambient light in daylight conditions.
if I recall, we were going to change from, we were gonna not use nits, we were gonna use lux instead. And if, I don't remember
What
if
does
there's
5,000 nits
one-to-one.
translate out to in foot, in
Well,
foot candles?
Because I don't even have, nit is not a normal unit.
It is what they're using for digital signage.
Oh, yeah, I understand that, I'm
So
just,
what is a nit?
Nit is one candela per square meter.
1 candela per square meter, okay, that's
and
the.
the candela translates out to
That's the same
the square
as,
foot?
it's the same as, same as lux. Lumens,
Or is it a nit?
yeah,
Same.
1 candela per square meter.
It's the standard base unit for luminous intensity.
Right, so it's exactly the same as lux, just a different name. And there's 10.8 lux to a
Candle
foot
emits
candle.
light with a luminous intensity.
No, that's the
Yeah,
definition of
that's-
candela. We have it here too.
Dan, you're the engineer, do you understand this?
Some of it. I think a nit is designed more though for like TVs.
And
they're
that's
also
what
using
this,
it for LEDs.
that's what this digital sign is more like.
Yes. That's what I'm using that instead of foot.
That's why that's why.
We measure lumens in our plant. When I put up LED lights, we measure them in lumens.
But you have an LED.
Yeah, we put LED lights, I'm
Yeah,
putting
but you
LED
do-
lights throughout my whole shop right now, and I measure it in lumens.
Lumens per square meter though, right?
I'm not sure what I don't actually measure it myself like that.
Because lumen, that's the same thing as a lux, which is the same thing as a nit as far as I can figure out.
Let's see, a common candle emits light with roughly 1 candela luminous intensity. Or it puts a 25 watt compact fluorescent light bulb, puts out about 1,700 lumens. These are examples just on the definition. So they're saying that roughly a common candle is equal to 1 candela in luminous intensity.
Right.
So it's,
Okay, so 5,000 nits,
but whereas we do it on square foot, they do it on square meter.
Which is 3 times the size.
So it's 3 times less. No, it's not relative that way. But it's just, a candela is, it's equal, the amount of light is equal to a candle. Let's put it that way. Well, it's a different candle.
Yeah, I'm saying,
Not a spermaceti
it's a
candle.
birthday candle.
I'll see you in the morning, Keith.
No comment?
Huh?
I left you a message,
Okay.
so you have to buy them all,
Oh,
it'll be here before.
Okay.
okay.
Other than the discussion about nits, is there anything else in the general standards for digital signs? So we're looking from A through J. I think we've pretty much covered them, we're just trying to figure out what that nits would translate out to. But at this point,
Well, 200 nits, as far as I can figure, I may not be completely accurate. And that is at night, so the 200